My name is Wendy Stover. I'm 27 years old, and for the last year, my entire life revolved around surviving long enough to pay rent on time. I work 2 jobs: morning shift at a car rental company from 8 to 4, grocery delivery until midnight, sometimes later if surge pay kicked in. I lived on caffeine, gas station sandwiches, and 4 hours of sleep because the apartment I shared with my boyfriend Caleb and his 2 friends, Mason and Tyler, cost more than any of us could realistically afford. At least, that's what I believed. The lease was under my name because my credit passed and theirs didn't. Caleb used to joke that I was the backbone of the house. Mason called me Mom whenever I reminded them about bills. Tyler once laughed and said, "If Wendy ever disappears, we're homeless." Funny now, looking back. Every month they sent me their share and I paid everything together: rent, utilities, internet. Safe, organized, predictable. I thought that meant we were a team. Then the first of the month came. No payments. I sent one reminder in the group chat while standing in the stockroom at work. "Hey guys, rent's due today." Caleb hearted the message. Nothing else. Mason said, "Got you later." Tyler didn't reply at all. By the 3rd, I received an email from the landlord while sitting in my car outside a grocery pickup. Rent received in full. I froze. I opened my banking app immediately. No withdrawal. No pending charge. Nothing from me had touched the rent account. That cold feeling hit my stomach instantly. When I got home, Caleb was stretched across the couch, scrolling through videos, while Mason and Tyler sat at the kitchen counter, whispering over someone's phone. "Rent got paid already?" I asked casually. Caleb looked up too quickly. "Oh, yeah. Mason covered it this month." Mason lifted a hand proudly. "Thought we'd help you out for once." Tyler smirked. "You've been stressed lately." Something about the way they said it felt rehearsed. Too smooth. Too easy. I sat down slowly. "You could have told me." Caleb leaned over and squeezed my knee. "Babe, relax. It was supposed to be a surprise." Surprise. That word almost made me laugh. I had worked 46 straight nights without a break. I'd covered Tyler's share twice when he forgot. I'd paid the electric bill alone last winter because Mason spent his paycheck at a music festival. Caleb always promised he'd make it up to me later. Later never came. That night, I couldn't sleep. Caleb passed out beside me while my brain replayed every strange thing from the last 2 weeks. Tyler suddenly asking when my shifts ended. Mason talking non-stop about cheap flights. Caleb smiling at his phone, then locking it whenever I walked into the room. At 6 in the morning, exhausted and still wearing yesterday's hoodie, I opened my laptop. The rent portal showed the payment source: Mason R. Then I checked Venmo. My chest tightened immediately. Tyler sent Mason $780. Caption: Airplane. Caleb sent Tyler $620. Caption: Split like usual. Mason sent me $100 3 days earlier, labeled gas money. Gas money. Mason didn't even own a car. I kept scrolling. Then I saw Caleb tagged in a public post from Mason. 2 plane tickets to Cancun. A beach emoji. Cocktail glasses. Much needed boys trip. My hands went numb. They didn't pay rent for me. They used my money to leave me behind. I stared at the screen while the sun slowly came through the blinds. Every skipped meal, every overnight delivery, every double shift suddenly felt humiliating. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was how comfortable they were doing it. Like my exhaustion belonged to them. That evening, Caleb walked into the bedroom carrying takeout like nothing had happened. "You okay? You've been weird all day." I looked at him carefully. Really looked at him. The man I'd defended to my family. The man I thought I was building a future with. "Who paid for Cancun?" I asked quietly. His smile flickered. "What?" "The flights, hotel, drinks? Who paid?" Caleb laughed nervously. "Why are you interrogating me?" I grabbed my phone and held up the Venmo screenshots. The color drained from his face slowly. For 3 seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he scoffed. "You're checking our payments now?" "I'm tracing my money." There it was. That tiny shift in his expression. The exact moment he realized, I knew. "Wendy, you're overreacting." "No," I said calmly. "I'm finally paying attention." He started pacing. "It wasn't even like that. Mason planned everything." "But my rent money paid for it." "You still had a place to live, didn't you?" That sentence hit harder than yelling would have. Like I should be grateful they only stole part of me. I stared at him for a long moment and suddenly felt something inside me go completely still. Not sadness. Not rage. Clarity. Caleb kept talking, trying to smooth it over, trying to explain how stressed everyone had been and how they deserved a break. Meanwhile, I was surviving on energy drinks and 4 hours of sleep so nobody got evicted. I stood up slowly. "You know what's funny?" I asked. "What?" "You all keep acting like this apartment belongs to everybody equally." He frowned. And for the first time since we moved in, I saw fear flicker behind his eyes. Because he remembered something. The lease only had one name on it. Mine. Caleb's face changed the second he realized what I meant. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just one tiny crack in the confidence he'd been wearing all year. "You're seriously making this into a huge thing?" he asked. I didn't answer immediately. I just picked up my laptop and walked past him. Behind me, his voice sharpened. "Wendy." Still calm, I turned around. "You took money I trusted you with and used it for a vacation." "It wasn't stealing." "Then what was it?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Exactly. That night, I locked myself in the bedroom and started digging deeper. Venmo history, bank transfers, shared expense app, group chats they forgot I could still access. Once I started connecting dates and amounts together, the whole thing unfolded like a cheap scam hidden under beach emojis. Over the previous 2 weeks, they had slowly redirected over $1,500 that was supposed to go toward rent and utilities. Tyler called one transfer food. Mason labeled another internet. Caleb literally sent me $50 with the caption coffee break, like he was tipping me for surviving them. I built a folder on my desktop called Receipts. Inside, it went everything. Flight confirmations, Airbnb screenshots, payment timestamps, public Instagram posts. A photo Mason uploaded holding margaritas beside a resort pool with the caption, "Bills paid, stress gone." I almost laughed when I saw it. Bills paid? By me. Around midnight, I remembered something important enough to make me stop typing. The lease. I opened the PDF copy from my email. One tenant listed. Wendy Stover. No co-applicants, no legal roommates, just me. When we first applied, Caleb's credit score had tanked after missing car payments. Tyler had an eviction notice from a previous apartment. Mason's employment history looked unstable. The landlord only approved us because of my income verification and background check. At the time, Caleb kissed my forehead and called me our hero. Now I understood what I actually was. Insurance. I stared at the lease for a long moment before grabbing my phone and calling the landlord the next morning. "Hey, Wendy," he answered. "Everything okay?" "Quick question," I said. "If I wanted to terminate the lease early, what would I need to do?" Silence. Then, 30-day notice and the break fee. That's it? You're the only legal tenant, so yeah. Perfect. Something cold settled inside me after that call. Not anger anymore.
Control.
While Caleb and the others packed swimsuits and sunglasses for Cancun, I started dismantling the life they thought would still be waiting when they came back. First, I paid the lease termination fee. Then I scheduled utility shutoffs.
Electricity. Water. Internet. Gas.
All timed for noon the day they returned. Next came passwords. Netflix, gone. Spotify Family Plan, removed. Shared food delivery accounts transferred to a new email. Streaming services disconnected from every TV in the apartment. Petty? Maybe. But betrayal has a funny way of making basic boundaries look cruel. 2 days before their flight home, I scheduled the final move-out notice email to send automatically. Then I booked a locksmith. Routine security update, I told the building manager. The entire time, Caleb had no idea. The morning they left for Cancun, he hugged me in the kitchen like everything between us was normal. "You sure you don't want to come?" he asked. I almost smiled at the audacity. "With what money?" His expression tightened for half a second. "Wendy." "Have fun." He hesitated, like he wanted to say something meaningful, but Tyler yelled from outside that the Uber was waiting. Then they were gone. Just like that. The apartment became silent in a way I hadn't realized I desperately needed. No video game sounds at 2 a.m., no dishes abandoned in the sink. No Caleb asking if I could spot him until Friday. I walked room to room slowly. And for the first time in months, I noticed how exhausted I actually was. Not physically.
Emotionally.
I had spent so much energy holding everyone together that I forgot what it felt like to stand alone. That night, I slept 8 straight hours. No anxiety, no pit in my stomach, no wondering who was secretly draining me while smiling to my face. Over the next 3 days, I packed quietly. My clothes, my documents, my electronics, the things I bought myself. Everything else stayed. I boxed up Caleb's belongings separately from Mason and Tyler's. No notes, no dramatic speeches, just labeled boxes lined neatly against the wall, like evidence waiting for collection. Then the Instagram stories started appearing. Beach selfies, drinks by the ocean, Caleb smiling beside women at a resort bar while Mason captioned it, "Living our best life." One story finally made me close the app completely. Caleb reposted a sunset photo with the words, "Needed this escape." I stared at it for a long time, because while he escaped, I had been working double shifts trying to survive the damage he created. That was the exact moment any guilt I still carried disappeared. By the time their return flight landed, I was already gone. New sublet across town. Small place, cheap furniture, quiet walls. Mine. At 11:47 a.m., I sat inside a coffee shop across from the apartment building and watched their Uber pull up. They stepped out laughing. Tan. Relaxed. Carrying shopping bags and expensive luggage. Then Tyler tried his key. Nothing. Mason tried next. Nothing. Caleb's smile vanished completely. The 3 of them stood outside the building entrance, confused, while their phones immediately started buzzing from utility shutoff alerts. Right on schedule. I watched everything from inside the coffee shop across the street. Tyler kept jamming his key into the lock harder, like aggression would magically fix stupidity. Mason was already cursing under his breath while dragging 2 suitcases onto the sidewalk. Caleb looked the worst. Not angry yet.
Confused.
like reality had suddenly stopped following the version he wrote in his head. Then, the building lights flickered. No hallway electricity. No Wi-Fi. No air conditioning. At exactly noon, every service connected to my name shut off. Their phones came out immediately. Calls, texts, more calls. I ignored the first 6. By the 7th, Caleb sounded panicked enough that I answered. "Wendy, what the hell is going on?" I took a slow sip of coffee. "You got back safely?" "Are you serious right now? None of our keys work." "I know."
Silence.
"Then, you changed the locks?" "Mm-hmm." "Why?" Because unlike him, I didn't need to yell to make someone uncomfortable. I ended the lease. Another silence. Longer this time. "You what?" "The apartment's done. Utilities, too." "Wendy, stop playing around." "I'm not." His breathing changed immediately. That tiny, sharp inhale people make when fear finally reaches them. "You can't just do this." "Actually, I can. My name was the only one on the lease." Behind him, I could hear Tyler asking loudly if he should call the landlord. I almost smiled. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "He already knows." Caleb lowered his voice. "Look, whatever this is, we can fix it." Fix it. Interesting word from a man who never fixed anything unless it affected him personally. "You used my rent money for a vacation." "It wasn't like that." "Then explain it." He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "I was going to pay you back." "With what money?" Another silence. I leaned back in my chair and watched them standing stranded outside the building, carrying Cancun souvenirs they couldn't even bring inside. "You embarrassed me over a misunderstanding," he said finally. I laughed softly. "No, Caleb, you embarrassed yourself. I just stopped protecting you from consequences." His tone sharpened instantly. "You're acting insane right now." "There it is." "What?" "The part where I stop being useful, and suddenly I'm crazy." He didn't answer. Because he knew. I continued before he could recover. "Your boxes are outside the management office. Pick them up before tomorrow afternoon." "Boxes?" "I packed your things." "Wendy." "And Caleb?" My voice stayed calm enough to make his sound even more unstable. "I saw the resort photos." Complete silence. Not denial. Not outrage. Just silence. Because guilty people always go quiet when they realize the evidence is bigger than the lie. Finally, he muttered, "It wasn't even serious." That hurt more than I expected. Not because of jealousy. Because after everything I sacrificed, he still thought dishonesty deserved minimizing. I closed my eyes briefly. Then I said the truest thing I'd realized all year. "You kept treating my loyalty like an unlimited resource." "Wendy, come on." "No, you come on. I worked myself into the ground while you used me as financial life support." "You're overreacting." "No," I said quietly. "I'm finally reacting the correct amount." Then I hung up. Across the street, Caleb lowered his phone slowly while Mason and Tyler argued beside him. For 1 second, he looked directly toward the coffee shop window, like he somehow felt me watching. But I stood up before he could spot me, and I walked away. No dramatic ending, no screaming match, no cinematic revenge speech. Just consequences arriving exactly on time. The next 24 hours were messy. Tyler sent angry texts calling me manipulative. Mason complained that one of his cologne bottles broke inside the box. Caleb switched between apologizing and blaming me, depending on the hour. I ignored all of it. By then, I had already moved into my new place. Tiny studio apartment, thin walls, cheap blinds. But when I locked the door that first night, something inside me loosened for the first time in months. Peace feels strange when you're used to survival. Over the following week, I blocked them everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, Venmo, phone numbers, shared playlists. Not out of bitterness, out of self-respect. People love calling women cold the moment we stop accepting disrespect quietly. But I wasn't cold. I was exhausted. There's a difference. A month later, one of our mutual friends told me Caleb was still complaining about how I blew everything up over money. Money. As if it was just numbers. Not sleep. Not trust. Not humiliation. Not years shaved off my nervous system trying to carry people who laughed while I drowned. I didn't defend myself. I didn't need to anymore. Because the truth had become painfully simple. They mistook my kindness for permission. And once I finally took that permission away, their entire world collapsed louder than mine ever did.